Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Bricker Boom, and we're back with another episode of Pokemon by Daylight. And once again, we have friends. So, Jane and Elodie are still going to be read by Aaron, just like normal. However, Felix is going to be read by Ramble of the stream duo, Ramble and Ratchet, whose links will be listed down below. Let's go ahead and hop into it, starting with Jane.
Jane Romero was the daughter of famous actress Loretta Lawrence, of whom she had no memory. Her parents had separated when she was still a baby, mainly since her mother was always away filming. Jane was raised by her father, a struggling visual artist. She grew up torn between resenting her mother's absence from her life and admiring her presence on screen. As a teenager, Jane secretly wished to emulate her mother's talent. She would direct and perform in plays, audition for TV commercials, and help her father at his studio. After graduating college, she quit her first job at a radio station to work for a trendy variety show. But her frank delivery and ad libs were not appreciated by the show's executives, who fired her 5 months after. That fucking sucks, dude.
Dang.
Yeah, damn. Oh. Desperate for another opportunity, Jane pitched a show at the radio station she used to work at, only to be turned down. 4 months later, she received a call looking for a co host for her failing show, Quick Talk. Live television meant long hours, a low salary, and no stability, but it offered a platform to broadcast her views. She disputed the crude, inflammatory tone of Quick Talk and pushed for. We're
Me.
getting hard today. Try this again. She disputed the crude, inflammatory tone of Quick Talk and pushed for a relatable coverage of personal issues. Her honest delivery resonated with her audience, and within weeks, the show's viewership was steadily growing. After 2 years, she launched a full hour segment called The Jane Romero Show, which was broadcast nationally and covered tabooed topics, including her personal struggle with abandonment. Her show broke records, and her initials JR became synonymous with products ranging from beauty creams to fashion accessories. But Jane needed more. She wanted others to follow in her footsteps. She published a memoir that covered her childhood with an absent mother. Her book was an instant bestseller, but was reviewed harshly. Jane took the criticism to heart, since despite her success, a voice in the back of her mind was starting to doubt her achievements. Her success also generated an increasingly demanding schedule and growing pressure to entertain constantly. Her stress peaked when she learned that her mother agreed to star in her show. Jane put on a brave face and began the show. Most of it went without a hitch, but her mother walked on set, smiling warmly at the audience. Jane's stomach lurched unpleasantly. She was consumed by a violent envy that had been festering. Yet she carried on with a strange smile until Loretta interrupted her, saying that they were not actually related. The interview went haywire after that.
What is happening?
Yeah, it went a little crazy. All right.
A little's an
After
understatement.
a little bit. After the show, Jane was driving to her father's house in New Jersey. Yay! That's where I'm from. Yay!
Shout
This fucking
out.
sucks. She needed to talk things over with him. She had not been feeling like herself lately. She turned on the freeway along the coast to avoid major congestion and popped some painkillers to numb the throbbing pain in her temples, which had been nagging her all day. Then she started to relax and turn on the radio. Classical music was playing. The drive was slow. Black ice covered the highway. Oh god, I know that on Jersey roads.
Yeah.
Which was
Ohio
packed with
too.
cars on the way back. Yeah, it's so bad. Black ice covered the highway, which was packed with cars on their way back home. Night fell. A darkness began to blur the corners of her vision and turn the headlights into swirls of red. Jane blinked to sharpen their outlines, but each time she closed her eyes, her eyelids became heavier and heavier until they remained shut for a moment too long. The following morning, authorities were fishing out Jane's car from the water. Despite leading a meticulous search for weeks, they were unable to retrieve her body. The airing and production of Jane Romero's show was suspended until after her funeral, which both her father and mother attended. As the public grieved for Jane, there was a surge of orders for JR products, and all her episodes were re released a month later with an opening credit that wished her eternal peace. That gave me chills, dude.
Yeah, a little
Ugh,
bit.
That's kind of creepy,
a little
though.
bit. All right, here's the last part. Jane Romero is an influential celebrity, going against the grain to tackle challenges head on. Her perks give her a flexible set of skills that allow her to help others as well as herself to escape dangerous situations.
So, for Jane's team, I think after we discussed it, we think that the best team for Jane would be Psyduck, first and foremost, due to it having headaches, and that's the reason that Jane even got captured by the entity in the first place. Rhydon, due to the perk Head On, and Rhydon literally using its head and horn to smash through objects. Mr. Rhyme, due to Jane being a performer and Mr. Rhyme being a performer as well. Any Pikachu clone, it literally does not matter which one, any of them will work, due to the fact that her mother was an original, much like Pikachu was, and Jane was trying to make a name for herself. Jinx, due to the hip sway and the animation of Jane walking, has a certain sway to it as well. And then finally, Wobbuffet, due to Wobbuffet biding its time and waiting to strike, much like you have to do with Head On when you pop out of the locker. So with that, Jane's full team would be Psyduck, Rhydon, Mr. Rhyme, Jinx, Wobbuffet, and literally any Pika clone that you can think of. I would probably go Pachirisu. And just given the fact that they're both Pokemon that like to be in the limelight, Jigglypuff.
1000%.
Thank you. Okay, hear me out here.
Mm-hmm.
The lyrics go, my anaconda. So hold on. Exactly. So Sandaconda, because Jane has that cake. All right. So next up we have Felix, who I typically, thanks to Aaron Duke, refer to as the white bread survivor. But let's go ahead and take a look at his not so white bread backstory.
Felix Richter was born in Coburg, Germany. His parents, both members of an ancient society, were always out of the Richter manor at medical conferences or providing humanitarian aid around the world. Growing up, Felix was socially awkward and introverted, preferring his imagination to the company of others. He had few friends, so when he wasn't traveling with his parents, Felix was in his father's library, devouring rare books, soaking up anything and everything he could on architectural movements throughout the centuries. Felix's father joined young Felix in the library, where he helped him build elaborate wooden models of buildings while telling him wild stories about his secret club and their ancient battle against a dark and ominous force. Stories, Felix was sure, his father had made up to make his Imperiati group sound cooler than it actually was. Every summer, Felix would accompany his parents to Dyer Island, where members of the Imperiati would encourage their children to network and forge lifelong connections. Felix didn't mingle well with the others, but he did make 4 friends who, like himself, didn't quite fit the high society mold. They were often bullied by other teens and nicknamed the Pariahs, a name they liked and gladly adopted. Instead of practicing public speaking and engaging in endless debates, the Pariahs spent most of their time exploring the ruins and mysteries of the island, until one of their adventures took a turn for the worse. Exploring an abandoned internment camp, they descended into what seemed to be an underground laboratory where they uncovered journals with illustrations and notes of inhumane experiments conducted on prisoners. As they pushed through a locked door, they found a chamber scattered with human skeletons and dusty vials filled with an unknown serum. Before they could examine the contents, the ground seemed to shake beneath their feet and a hissing sound filled the ears. A strange fog suddenly appeared, and giant claws seemed to burst from the ground as dark imaginations mingled with reality to terrorize them. Before they understood what was happening, Felix's father and several other parents came to their rescue, using strange tools and objects to protect them. Felix stared at the scene in shock and disbelief. He wasn't sure if he was dreaming or living one of his father's ridiculous supernatural stories. By the time he realized it wasn't a dream, it was all over. The Pariahs were safe, but their parents had mysteriously disappeared without a trace. After the shock of his father's disappearance, Felix searched for any theory that could help him understand the phenomena he had encountered on the island. He exchanged notes with the Pariahs and other people he had met online who had also lost loved ones in similar ways. But nothing made sense, and every lead they pursued hit a dead end. Back on Dyer Island, Felix surveyed the island. He suddenly heard a familiar voice calling out to him. from beyond the shattered Victorian buildings and the crumbling ruins hiding dark stories long hidden and forgotten. Through a strange, gathering fog, he saw a form slowly take shape. His eyes widened and his lips parted, but no words issued forth. With heartbeat thrashed in his ears, it was him. It was really him. His unborn child would know his grandfather, and he could finally show him how much he had accomplished since he disappeared. They stared at one another for a long moment. Then his father gave him a look of disappointment, turned his back on him, and proceeded to walk away. Over his pounding heart, Felix chased after him and was never seen again. Felix Richter is a visionary architect, able to use his relentless determination to form a plan and help other survivors. His perks help him reveal generators, rescue survivors, and get the most from his tools.
So with Felix, I think that the best team that would work for him is first and foremost Conkeldurr, due to it being a construction-based Pokemon. Cleavor, due to using the tools of his own body, due to Felix being an architect, I think it works out pretty well. Unknown, due to him studying ancient texts and worlds. Great Tusk, due to being listed in a paranormal magazine, and that seems like something Felix would probably read in his free time. Stonejourner, due to it being very much based off Stonehenge, Felix would likely research the Pokemon Dex's entry talks about a once-a-year meetup. Felix would probably be researching that. And then finally, Diggersby, due to it being a skilled digger and being able to dig out of tunnels, given the fact that Felix kind of goes spelunking when he's exploring these, makes sense. So the perfect team for Felix would be Conkeldurr, Cleavor, Unknown, Great Tusk, Stonejourner, and Diggersby. And I still cannot stand Diggersby design.
Why are you friends with us? Did you ever
have
figure
some-
that out?
Why are you saying it like that?
Like, oh my god, this is how all the cool
Oh my
kids talk.
God.
Oh my god, let's get a clue.
Oh my god.
The fuck?
And last but not least today, we have Elodie up, so let's go ahead, hop into her backstory.
Born into a lush Parisian household, Elodie Ricoto grew up in a comfortable home miles away from the verdant island of Madagascar, her parents' birthplace. Her backpack was always heavy and usually contained no schoolwork. Oh, girl, please, same.
So what was it heavy with?
She carried the essentials: a few history
Oh.
books, some printed maps. I'll restart.
Oh no!
You're like an impatient ADHD kid in the back of the class who had to interrupt the teacher and just say, "Wait, what do you mean?" And it's like, dude, I was about to get to that.
What do you mean?
Oh my god! Please keep that in.
Yeah, no, that's gonna stay. I'm gonna just shut up.
She carried the essentials: a few history books, some printed maps, and a compact shovel. For fuck's sake. Whew, okay. When she was 14, her parents took her to Dyer Island for a business trip. To her grand disappointment, the island was a private site for exclusive members of the Imperiati. She was forced to attend pretentious and awkward social mixers daily. Girl, that sucks. After a few weeks on the island, she met the pariahs, like-minded teenagers who had no interest in being pawns for their parents' political chessboard. On dull, rainy nights, she would convince them to sneak out and explore the island unsupervised. One evening, they stumbled upon an abandoned internment camp. Felix, one of the pariahs, didn't want to go in, but Elodie insisted. Inside, they found a strange underground laboratory in ruins. Elodie noticed something in the far left corner of the wall, odd scratches in the shape of a circle. She ran her fingernails against the cool concrete. The marks were deep and narrow. A warm whisper suddenly sent her mind adrift. Deep rundling? Yep,
Rumbling.
This is great. Deep rumbling thunder. Black glistening waves. an ashen, sanded beach, incomplete. She was compelled to touch the ice cold sand and draw a circle with a line in the middle. A sharp thunderclap and lightning whipped the sky. The ground shook as sleek obsidian claws tore through the concrete floor, ripping the earth open. The building began to collapse, and Elodie spotted her mother wielding a bizarre instrument while her father told her to run. Then, complete darkness. Elodie never saw her parents again. 14 years later, Elodie searched for the missing pieces of the puzzle. No rational explanation could explain her parents' disappearance, so she had been looking elsewhere. She researched any and all legends that mentioned a dark force that snatched people at night without a trace. Her findings pushed her further into the dark field of occultism. The pariahs were long gone, but she refused to give up on her parents. She had pressing work to do for the Collector, an occult specialist who archived rare artifacts. Just as the Collector requested, she had secured the annals of a witch trial convicting a mother birthing conjoined twins in the 17th century. According to the legend, an occult incantation was engraved on a set of skulls, all which the Collector possessed except one, the witch's skull. There were no traces of where the skull was now, but Elodie had found a newspaper article dating back to the same year, mentioning that most remains had been relocated to the catacombs to avoid a pandemic. Elodie was acting on a hunch. Breaking into the catacombs to retrieve a lost skull involved certain risks, but no more than her previous work she'd done for the Collector. The journey beneath was long and treacherous. She gasped when her keychain flashlight hit an endless wall of bleached white skulls. Something cracked behind her. She spun around and collided headfirst with a baseball bat. Pain exploded in her skull, and darkness filled her view. When she came to, a man was carrying her over his shoulder, venturing deeper inside the catacombs. He was wearing a dark robe, the black veil. She managed to elude them until now. Ruthless and lethal, they went by many names. She'd figured out that they ultimately all worked for the same group, a ring of occult fanatics rumored to perform human sacrifices for what they called the Old One. She had to get out of there fast. Elodie spotted a loose skull on the wall, grabbed it, and smashed it into her assaulter's head. Stunned, the man lost his balance, and Elodie hit the ground running. As she turned a corner, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her side. She looked down and saw a large blade was planted there. Shocked, she removed the knife and warm blood spurted out. That's like the first thing you don't do when you get stabbed, dumbass.
Right. I mean,
Oh
Yeah,
my
no.
god.
but
Ugh.
it is so much easier to say that because we haven't been stabbed. At least I haven't.
Also
I don't know
true.
about you.
No comment.
I ain't here to judge. What you do in your free time is up to you.
That's a different kind of stabbing.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Okay. Her heartbeat rang in her ears as her vision blurred. She fell to her knees. Summoning all her strength, she drew a circle on the ground with a shaking, blood red finger and traced a line in the middle. She had found what she'd been searching for as the fog consumed her. Elodie Ricotto is a occult investigator, able to use cunning tricks and stubborn resolve to keep herself alive. Her perks allow her to interact with objects in new ways, all while having a backup plan to escape killers. See what I mean? Her story's cool.
Yeah, it kind of
Yeah.
is. With Elodie, I think that the best team that would work for her would be Sableye, due to the gemstones in its eyes and her being an appraiser of sorts. Ninetales, due to her being tied with the occult, and each of its tails are rumored to be tied with some sort of supernatural power. Murkrow, due to it being attracted to shiny objects, much like an appraiser would be. Delibird, due to it being a delivery Pokemon and her delivering, or as I wrote down, delibering, because I think I'm funny, to the Collector. Trevenant, due to her likely being one of the few people brave enough to enter a forest that Trevenant was spotted, especially if treasure was on the line. And then finally, Excadrill, due to its excavating skills, I feel like that would be pretty important to somebody like her. So, with that being said, Elodie's team would be Sableye, Ninetales, Murkrow, Delibird, Trevenant, and Excadrill. And with that, that's another episode taken care of and in the books. Next week, we are going to, or in 2 weeks, I should say, we are going to be covering Alien, Ripley, and Ace. So, as always, if you like the video, even if you didn't like the video, hit the like and subscribe button because it really does help me out. And until next time, everybody, peace out.
Are you having a fun time there?
Oh, look, I thought it was me.
And I now have the ending sound clip, and I am so happy.